Hello guys, welcome back to another video on the channel where you can find everything related to pop culture and history. In today's video we will see a new form of art that mixes everything we have seen in past videos. It mixes music, history, and pretty much everything that we can see.
I'm talking about video games. Video games are electronic entertainment media that mixes audiovisual elements with a true objective and narrative on it. Video games are not as old as we think they are. They have been around with us for not so long ago. In fact, the first video console, as we know it today, came out in 1977. It was the Atari 2600, but that's a story that we will see in another video. Today we will go back in our DeLorean almost 40 years ago and talk about the history of a console that marked lives not only for children but adults as well, even nowadays. Today we will talk about the history of the Nintendo Entertainment System.
The year was 1993, and while in America Atari was struggling to take float to the disaster that was the E.T. game, a small company on the other side of the Pacific was making video game history. Nintendo Trading Card Video Games, or Nintendo Games, a rather small video game company founded in Imperial Japan in 1899, was still not a so well-established video game company yet. But in 1983 they launched their very first home console for the Japanese market. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the Nintendo Famicom. The Famicom was the first 8-bit system in the whole world and was a success in Japan, selling over 2.5 million units only in Japan by its first year. The success of this Japanese console was such that the big suits at Nintendo started to question whether or not they should expand the console outside of Japan. They were thinking about passing these to the other side of the pond.
Let's all remember that 1 year before, Atari messed the whole video game industry, all thanks to the mighty video game crash of 1993, which made retail stores stop buying new stocks for video game consoles in the US, which made it tough for new consoles, especially the Japanese one, to debut on the American market. Nintendo decided to risk themselves and put everything they had on their new globalization of the Famicom. In order to make it more suitable for the American market, especially for children, they decided to launch the console with a new peripheral, ROV, which was a little robot that can be used with the Nintendo, and it was bundled with the first console. On October 18, 1985, the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES for bodies, was launched in America, and as we know it, it was a massive success.
The NES launched with a little game called Super Mario Bros., which helped a lot in the sales of the console.
You'll see, Nintendo was only most notably remembered because they created in 1981, with the hand of the legendary creator Shigeru Miyamoto, remember his name, the arcade game Donkey Kong, an arcade game that boomed in America thanks to their gameplay mechanics and lovable characters. One of them was Mario, that later becomes Super Mario Bros. Super Mario Bros. Is a 2D platformer which was nothing like anything anybody saw before. It had 8 different worlds and a plotline, which was like nothing anybody had seen before. It went to sell over 40 million copies worldwide, and it's a classic game not only for gamers around the world, but for people. It is still the most recognizable game in history.
See, the controller is not something that everybody has seen. You see, it's very different from the prior controller that we had, which was the Atari controller. This one had a joystick. This one not. This one was in a rectangular shape, like we can see, and it has a brand new version for this time. It was called the D-pad. It's a directional pad. It only consisted of 4 buttons, which was easier for kids and for people to understand what to do. Because sometimes A was just for jump and B was just for this. So, before we go, I want to give you my top 3 must-have games for the NES that you need to play at least once. These are 3 games that really are the true essence of the console and mark not only the history of video games, but probably you have seen them or you have read of them before.
As we saw, the NES was a worldwide success that marked the lives of not only 80s kids but for generations to come. Even today, kids still love to play as Mario or Luigi or Link or Samus. It set the steps for the whole modern video game industry. The NES, by the beginning of the 90s, was starting to be behind their competitors, and the last game for the system was launched in 1995 as the Lion King game. But do not worry, because new times comes with new technology, super technology. Stay tuned for our future videos where we'll discuss the next generation of consoles, starting with the
Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power. Superpower.